Hi everyone. So today we're with Courtney. Courtney is here to discuss the interview process to become a solutions architect at Databricks and her perspective, as a hiring manager. So, hi Courtney.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So great to have you here. Before we start talking about the interview process and what it takes to become a solutions architect at Databricks, can you just start by telling us a bit about yourself? Your role, or your journey before you joined Databricks. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, great. So I am an SA director at Databricks. I've been here nearly 4 years now, which time has absolutely flown by. It has been nearly 20 years since I started working in software. I think pre-sales is something I kind of fell into. I studied business and Spanish at university, so don't particularly have a very technical degree. But I had a friend that worked at a software company, and I got in a really entry level position nearly 20 years ago now,
Wow.
and have really never looked back. And basically, I didn't even know what pre-sales was at the time. You know, growing up, I don't think many people say, I want to be a solution architect. Maybe some kids do now. I don't know. But it was really interesting to see the pre-sales people at the software company that I worked at. I just thought they were so cool. You know, they were demoing the software, they were talking to customers, and I thought it looked so fun. And they were so smart. And I started spending my lunch hours with these people, and they would whiteboard things for me and teach me about the product. And it was a really good experience. And long story short, ended up transferring over to the UK in 2008 with work. And yeah, I had started leading teams as well. So started as an individual contributor, have had a couple different roles, and now I do a lot of hiring as well. And I think that is one of the things I am most proud of is the amazing hires and the people that I've met whilst being at Databricks.
Amazing. And so now, can you describe the solutions architect's role or SA role?
Great question. And it is something that is evolving, I think. I mean, even in the time that I've been here at Databricks, you know, in my previous experience at a lot of companies, pre-sales was very much you helped a salesperson sell some software and you would make the sell and then you kind of go on to the next customer or to the next deal, and you know post sales would then help implement that software. So there was a very kind of black and white in terms of handover. Well, in pre-sales there's always some gray areas. It's never perfect black and white. But you know it was very much more like helping the customer start to use the software, you know, getting that technical win and then doing that handover. Databricks is now a consumption business, as a lot of software companies are. And so in a consumption business, it's that continuous cycle of not only getting the customer to choose to use Databricks, but then once they're using it, because our platform, the use cases are potentially endless, you know, everything from data engineering, machine learning, Gen AI, there's so much potential with our platform. Even if someone is using Databricks, there's the potential need for a solution architect if there's new use cases or projects that the customers are interested in. So from my perspective, this role, the way that I describe it at the 10,000 foot view is yes, it is technical, but it's also business. So I think a lot of times people who are very, very interested in just purely the technical, we also do have other roles at Databricks that are more aligned to that. But the solution architect role in particular, it is customer facing. And, you know, you are helping to help customers get the most value out of Databricks, and that does entail working with a sales team, which is a big part of it. And I think even if you're really, really technically strong, which is something that we obviously look for, technical depth and breadth, that is amazing. But you could have the best technical skills, but if you aren't able to translate that to how you're going to solve a business problem for a customer, then you're not going to be able to bring value to that customer. So I think at the simplest level, it is business and technical, which to me is what makes it so exciting and such a fun role.
And you
Yes.
have like continuity with a customer, right? So it's not coming in and out. Like you take a customer and you go with them through their journey.
Yes, and I think one thing I will caveat as well is something that I've realized because I've recently changed teams within Databricks as well, and so we do have so many different segments of our business now. We are quite large, we have vertical teams, and we do have teams that operate. We have very, very large customers where a solutions architect might be working with one customer and one customer only. In different segments of our business, you may technically in your patch that there might be hundreds of customers where not all of them are using Databricks and not all of them are necessarily customers that you're going to be spending your time with because that's not scalable. But in those patches, maybe you are coming in and out for specific things in that time that the customer actually needs. Whereas if you only have one customer, then you are going a lot deeper there. So for people that are interested in this role at Databricks, I would encourage you understand what the specific role is, because sometimes for large accounts, we will be looking for someone with specific industry expertise or potentially even experience working with similar customers to that one. Whereas if you're in a working more in a wider patch, then you might not need that industry specific knowledge. But if you enjoy that context switching and getting that variety of use cases and working with different customers, then that can also be a really, really good fit for you. The good news is typically we're hiring across all of these roles, and so there are options. But that would be one of my other biggest takeaways is think about really try to understand like what the specific role and team is that you're interviewing for.
This is such a good point around the size of the customer and also especially whether they're already using Databricks, in which case very often you end up being a trusted advisor and alerting them of new features, seeing if it's a good fit, looking at all their projects and see how we can work together versus customers who've never heard of Databricks where your pitch is going to very often be different, more compete oriented. So it's a very good point to try and understand which team you might join when you interview and say what you're interested in to make sure we find like the best role. And so for your specific team, who are you looking to hire?
Yeah, good question. So I've done a lot of hiring this year. So I'm aligned to the emerging enterprise business, which does mean that we have a higher number of customers. And so one of the things, and I'm very transparent in the interview process because I appreciate it's not going to be a fit for everyone. And so again, if any potential candidates are watching this, because we have different roles, we also have roles in the enterprise part of our business and potentially for those single strategic accounts as well. And so I always ask candidates, what do you want to do? What do you enjoy doing? What do you like having that variety? Or given the option, would you like to go deeper on one specific account? Is that relationship and that champion building the most important thing to you? There is no wrong answer. I would say don't tell us an answer that you think we want to hear, because not only are we interviewing you, but you should be interviewing us, because we want to set candidates up for success. We want to bring you into a role where you don't just see this as a role that you're going to take for 2 or 3 years and then move on to the next company. We're growing so quickly at Databricks. We want you to feel that this is somewhere where you can grow your career. And so getting you in the right team is hopefully a really good start to, you having that success. And then the great news is, once you are here for a while, or if you do want to do something else, I have people on my team that now they have a lot of accounts. They're getting great exposure, really good experience. Maybe in a couple of years, they do want to go work on one of the very large accounts. We've also had solution architects that have worked on a very large account for a number of years, and they actually then want to go back and get the variety again. And, then they can use that deep industry expertise that they've had from that, really large strategic account and, hopefully benefit other teams with that. So there's lots of different options, but I think when describing pre-sales, that's why it can be quite challenging. I mentioned business, technical. We're a consumption business, so it really does depend on where the customer is in their journey. As you said, Lara, it could be, someone who they're not using Databricks at all today, in which case it can be competitive. We do want to establish making sure that they're set up with the foundation of the lakehouse architecture to really have a good foundation. Or they are an existing customer, in which case ideally they already have all of that in place, and then it's just expanding to new use cases, projects, and teams.
Amazing. And so
And
can
then this
you walk us,
emerging side of the business. Ooh, go for it.
can you walk us through the interview process for this role? Just very quickly.
Yeah, good question. So typically there is a recruiter screen. So you'll speak to one of our amazing recruiters. Then a hiring manager screen. So with someone like myself. Then there is a coding test. So that is take home. You can work on that in your own time. Then there's a technical interview with one of the existing team members, which is a great opportunity. You get to meet someone doing the role as well. And then if all of those go well, one of the last steps is a panel interview. And that will be with the hiring manager. So again, someone like myself, an SA manager, someone from sales, and then also another potential team member. And we all play a different role. So there's business and technical in that panel interview, because the point of that one, if you get to that stage, you've passed the coding test, you've passed the technical. So then it's, okay, what are those customer facing skills, and how do you present, and can you focus on what the business value is, not just the technical. And then after the panel, we do a wrap-up call to give you feedback. We do appreciate all the time and effort people are putting into this process. So regardless if you're successful or not, we want to give you feedback either way. And one thing I will say is we have had candidates be unsuccessful at that stage, but when given the feedback, again, depending on how you take the feedback and if it's something that you're willing to go away and work on, we have then hired those candidates through a second process. So I would say also don't give up, because sometimes you may fall short on one or two things, but if that's something that you're willing to work on, I always, when I get additional headcount, I will go revisit candidates that have maybe just had a close miss previously, and sometimes those end up being really, really good Bricksters as well. So the wrap up, and then at that stage, there's typically an exec interview, which is just 30 minutes. Again, that's a great opportunity to, meet a senior leader on the team, ask any additional questions about Databricks. And then we move to references and offer stage.
Amazing. We also did a bunch of videos for each of those phases of the interview, so people can always go and watch them to deep dive into each part and how to be successful. What kind of background are you looking for? What's a good fit for an SA role? And I know it's a loaded question because we have people from different backgrounds, right? And with very different skills. So what are you looking for?
Yeah, and I think, look, there. First of all, I will caveat that there's no perfect answer. So if you don't fit the traditional background, I would encourage you. To me, diverse backgrounds make amazing team members. I mean, law degrees. There's amazing examples within Databricks of people who have very different backgrounds. But I think, going back to at the really high level, that business and technical, a lot of the team, they may not have pure pre-sales experience. I think it is hard to find people in the industry unless you're working at one of the hyperscalers or a competitor, at a software, at a vendor. You may not have pure pre-sales experience, but we have hired from a lot of consulting background, because that way, you still do get that customer facing experience, which can be good. And then, people who have been practitioners themselves as well. So they've been data scientists, they've been data engineers. I think those people can also be really great candidates. But then the piece that might be missing is that customer facing bit, which again, if you're not on the vendor side, that's not necessarily your fault. So then, we do look for opportunities where, okay, have they had to present within their own business? And can they be coached? And is that something that they want to do in terms of their career direction, that more customer facing?
Yeah, being on that side, being on the client side before coming to pre-sales, it was a huge shift on mentality. Like, how do you think when you are creating a project internally versus actually you are selling now? So it's an interesting change.
Yeah, and sometimes I think I really value, candidates that have come from the customer side as well. I think I really like that because they know the conversations from the other side of the table. And I think that can also give really good credibility. So, okay, you don't have the pure pre-sales experience, but you've actually been in the customer's shoes on that side of the table. So I think there's a lot of value in that as well.
And especially people coming from the customer side, sometimes I saw people hesitating to apply because they didn't have pre-sales experience. But talking with them, I could really see that they were, for example, discussing a lot with internal stakeholders on projects and developing communication skills, which would be valuable in a pre-sales role. So I would say not having pre-sales experience should not be an obstacle, and you can always try to think of examples where you had to, develop those communication skills, even if you don't have any customers. Yeah.
Exactly. I think the biggest thing, if pre-sales skills, yes, a very, very nice to have, but we appreciate with the technical depth and breadth that we look for, again, it is challenging. So I think the communication skills, as you mentioned, also just the soft skills. So again, the ability to understand the business problem and translate, something that can get very technical very quickly and quite complex, but being able to explain that to a business user.
Last question for me.
And if you've had to do that internally, then I think any examples of those is really valuable.
Yeah. Actually, a question from the audience. We were asked, what about the more junior positions in field engineering, such as solutions engineer? What is the experience required, the interview process, etc.? And we get asked a lot of questions around also the career ladder, because obviously it's different from one company to another. So for solutions engineer, here we're talking about L3, then you have senior solutions engineer, which is L4, and then solutions architect, which is 5, and senior solutions architect, which is L6. So what about the more junior position? What's the experience required?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I also wanted to mention that earlier, talking about, understand the role, understand the team. I think that is also important in terms of the expectation and what your experience is. So I think we have started to hire, more L4s. I've even hired L3s. One, we're finding some amazing talent, which is really exciting. And I think they're even helping us raise the bar with some of our more tenured or senior team members. So it's amazing to see the passion and even the skills that they are bringing to Databricks. But I think if it is L3, L4, one, we don't expect you to have all of this experience, because you are and I'm always, careful with my wording because I don't want to be ageist, but it's you're younger in career. You're not going to have as much experience than, someone at a senior solutions architect level, which is completely fine. And so the key thing for me is, one, I would expect more junior candidates to have some gaps. And for me as a hiring manager, it's okay, there is this gap. One, are they self-aware? And two, is it something that they're willing to work on?
And
Because
then
to
do you
me, oh, go ahead,
and
Maria.
then do you position them in specific patches that are more, I don't know, easier to handle, like not very big accounts, for example, that can get lost?
Yeah, so I mean, even within emerging, we kind of do have some different tiers, and again, this is where having a diverse team really is the best team, because we do have people on our team now that are L3, L4, L5, and L6, and so if we have a customer that has a really complex or sophisticated use case, for example, we can actually bring multiple people in to help, or pull in an SSA, a specialist. And so one, there is a wider team, but I think even, with L3s, like if you read the job description, the expectation is you're not meant to be autonomous immediately. You're actually working alongside a senior solutions architect, excuse me. And but it's really interesting because we're getting such great talent in the interview process that are very ambitious. And I've had L3 candidates ask me, well, I want to be autonomous. When can I start working independently, in the interview process? So I would also say, don't, it's not like as a leader, I'm going to hold people back on my team because of their level. Like, if you are ramping and you're confident and you want to take on more, obviously, those opportunities can be presented to you. But I think we do that in terms of expectation setting to make sure that, there is the proper training and onboarding in place, and you're not feeling like you're just getting thrown into a large account and then have to figure it out. Databricks does move really quickly, so it can be challenging. I am very transparent in the interview process. If you do not like change, this is not the company for you. And I think that change can be a very, very positive thing. We are constantly innovating, our product, and because our teams are growing, that often means change every year. And even since I've been here, when I joined, we didn't even have the SSA role.
Yes.
We didn't have the DSA role. And so I think change also brings new opportunities and new career paths to people that, if you join Databricks today, there may be a role next year that doesn't even exist now. And that could be a good opportunity for you.
That's very true.
Amazing. So, Courtney, if we go back to the interview process, what are the usual mistakes candidates make? Any tips to avoid those?
Oh, that is a good question. The first thing that comes to the top of my mind is not having questions. I don't understand how you can, be wanting to join a brand new company, and all your questions are answered. So I think, I would encourage people to have questions. It's great if you, think you understand the role. Maybe you know someone at Databricks. Maybe you're very familiar with the Databricks platform already. But I think in terms of, the team dynamic, how we work, like, what we're excited about, what our plans are for next year. There's so many potential things. So I think have questions. And especially during the presentation, the panel interview, we actually, as managers, we offer a prep call. Because especially at that stage, we want you to be successful. You've invested time, we've invested time, you've kind of gotten to that last stage. Most candidates do, but I think some candidates don't take advantage of that. Or during that prep call, they don't necessarily listen to the advice. And one of the biggest things in that panel interview, if you get to that final stage, I always tell candidates, you've done the coding test. You've done the technical. This is really about how you can also present, from the business side and ask questions and keep it engaging. And if you turn up to the panel interview and are just talking at us about technical, when it is a mixed audience, that's one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen.
So like not taking advantage of the prep call, which also means kind of we don't know how they handle feedback and if they take the feedback and apply it, and then being too technical into the presentation and not asking any questions really.
Yeah, and I think obviously, like, we're having you present Databricks. Yes, there is a technical element, and you may get some technical questions. So I'm not saying ignore that entirely, but again, because we intentionally have a panel that is meant to be a mixed audience to kind of mimic what you could get in real life. If you're just going really, really, really deep on architecture, and you have someone from sales or marketing in the meeting. No disrespect to sales or marketing. They're very, very intelligent. But less technical. It's very easy to get lost in that detail, and you're going to lose your audience.
Makes sense. So a question I think we kind of answered, but just to give you a chance to say anything that you didn't mention before, are there any misconceptions candidates may have about the SA role that you want to clarify?
Ooh, good question. I think, especially for people, who don't have that pre-sales experience, which again, hopefully we have clarified, nice to have, but not in every role, not 100% expected, as long as you show the other, soft skills and willingness to take feedback and learn. But this role does involve working with a sales team. And so if you're looking for a role that is purely focused on technical, or, mostly just technical, or really, really hands-on with the product for most of the role, that isn't the reality. And, again, that's why a lot of people want this role, because you do get that customer interaction. It is customer facing, but, also really understanding, okay, what are we trying to achieve here? What is the business outcome that we're trying to drive, and work closely with our sales team to try to achieve that. We are a company that we do have revenue targets. That is an aspect of our role. We do have goals that we want to hit, and performing as a business, that is an important aspect of it. So I would say, field engineering, the org that we sit in, we very much are part of that go-to-market team that sits within Databricks, and working with our sales counterparts is a really important part of our role.
And what about Databricks experience? Do we need Databricks experience on kind of as a practitioner, for example?
Good question. Obviously, nice to have. Not necessarily. You do not have to have it. And to me, I think, not that I'm not saying, oh, you can just learn Databricks in a day. I mean, obviously our platform is constantly evolving. Even if you think you know everything, we will then acquire another company or come out with a really cool new innovation. So the pace of innovation at Databricks, there's constantly new things to learn, even for the people that work here. It is really interesting. What I find is sometimes the new hires, they will actually know our newer functionality better than the tenured team, because they've had the time to go through the onboarding and do the training. And sometimes we leverage that in the team, which is great. I mean, this was years ago, but I remember an SA who started when we launched Delta Live Tables, and he was brand new to the company, but he very quickly became the Delta Live Tables expert within our team. And we had tenured SAs asking him to come to their customer meetings and demo Delta Live Tables. So that's just one great example where I think the technology bit you can definitely learn. We have really good onboarding. It's super structured. There's so many people to help you. I think it's what I look for, especially in hiring, is like those soft skills. I find sometimes those are the things that are harder to coach and teach. So I would rather have someone that is really willing to learn, and that, has demonstrated that. Hopefully, they have other technology experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be Databricks.
Amazing. And then another question that I really love asking is, how would you describe the diversity in your team?
Oh, so I am very proud to say
Yeah.
I am really proud of the diversity in my team. It does vary by team. Obviously, this is something that we really do strive for. It is a priority at Databricks. But I was just speaking to one of the managers on my team and looking at one of our UK teams. It's 50, and I think a lot of people, diversity, unfortunately, they immediately think gender. And that's not the only thing that I'm talking about in diversity either. But it is hard in this industry. I'm very happy. I mean, look, there's
Yes.
3 women on this call, which when I started out, I was often the only female in the room or on the team. And that was just the norm to me. So I am happy to see that changing. But one of the managers on my team, I mean, his team is literally, it's 50-50 men, women. It's also an even split of L4, L5, and L6. And everyone has super diverse backgrounds in terms of skill set as well. And another great example, we were in the London office a few weeks ago, and a bunch of us were sat at a table of our team, and there were 10 of us at the table. And we looked around, and someone said, not a single person at this table was born in the same country.
Ooh, that's so cool, right?
And there were 10 of us there,
Yeah.
And so I think like the diversity, again, not just gender, but in experience level, in what that experience is. We always look for, we've got spikes in data science, we've got spikes in data engineering, we've got spikes in cloud architecture. And, some come from consulting, some come from the customer side, some, very few, but, some did have pre-sales experience before joining. So I think that diversity is something that I'm really, really proud of. And hopefully, we continue to grow that at Databricks.
I definitely feel it gets better. It's getting there. Yeah. Cool. Last question. What advice would you give to someone aspiring to join the SA team?
Reach out.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, I mean, literally, I was joking with someone the other day. I've been here nearly 4 years, and when I put that hiring badge on my LinkedIn, I have never removed it. We are always hiring. So I think, and even if we don't have a particular manager has a rec open, at a specific time, there's always movement, and typically there's always more additional headcount coming. So sometimes it can be a timing thing, but the biggest piece of advice I would have is reach out. Especially as a hiring manager, I am always willing to do like coffee chats, informal conversations, and we have such a big team now. I was super impressed. I was on with an L3 candidate the other day, so relatively newer in career, and she said, "Oh, I've reached out to this person." She was, proactively reaching out and wanting to actually talk to some of the team as well to understand the role from their perspective. It's great. I can talk about it as a leader, of course, but I think it's really good if you can speak to someone who's actually doing the role at Databricks today as well. Again, we're not only interviewing you, you should be interviewing us.
Yeah, that's a very good point, right? Because again, we need a long-term relationship here. We don't need just come and go.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you.
Thank you.